Good morning, everyone. It's Erin from Celebr8. I've come to do the class with you for Whiskers and Paw Prints, one of my favorite collections, just because I absolutely love animals. Anybody who knows me will know I'm a bit of an animal nut. Used to be known as the cat lady. Now we have 3 bunnies. I'm not quite sure which one I'm actually supposed to be. Yeah, this one is very close to my heart. I've done a layout before of deceased pets. As far as I'm concerned, fur babies are not pets. They're actually members of the family. They're people in different bodies. So this is very, very special to me. For this layout, you'll just need 1 bulk pack and then obviously your consumables and your tools. So just your bulk pack. I'll just run through the layouts quickly so you know what you're doing. So this is layout 1. This little fur baby, Baba, she's actually featured on a couple of our online classes because she loves to be on the camera. She's actually older than my kids, so if she swipes my kids and the kids come running to me, I ask the kids what did they do wrong, not what she did wrong, because she is the baby, she is the head of the house. She can wake us up at 3 o'clock for biscuits and then not eat any. You can see, we are fur baby family big time. So this will be layout 1. Layout 2, I had a bit of fun. These are our gorgeous babies. Also, so this one's Roxy. She's a rescue during COVID, and this was a gift for my 30th birthday from best friends of ours in Joburg. So that's Roxy and Jackie, and they absolutely love the beach. So I had fun making a little kennel with some photos inside the kennel, a little pocket. Just fun. It's just supposed to be fun. These pages inside, when you get to this later, I'll explain more, but they are square. So if your photos are portrait or landscape, we can make it work for whatever photos you have. So that was very deliberate because obviously some photos work, some don't, and just made it easier for you to choose the right photos. So that's layout 2. And finally, our single layout 3. This is my Lucky, and there's Bubba at the background. So Lucky was also a rescue. She's our fat cat. She featured on the start of my promo. She's really fat. She doesn't eat much, but she's got a lot of African wildcats in her, so we don't know what she eats from the wild. That would explain her lovely, we call it her primordial pouch, but it's more than her primordial pouch. It's quite a tummy. So that is going to be layout 3. It's very simple, but it's very effective. So you would have had your cutting guide beforehand, so everything should be pre-cut. We're going to start on layout 1, which is, just to recap, that one. Okay. So from the pre-cut pile, just make sure you've separated everything, and you're going to get everything from pile 1. So everything was labeled 1A all the way through. And then you'll need this little quote. I don't trust people who don't meow back at cats. That one's a little bit inaccurate. I don't trust people who don't talk back at cats. Just because they meow doesn't mean they don't understand talking. So you can just change that to talk. But for some, you know, it's a bit far. I think I'm a little bit loony, but well, that's fine. My cats understand me. I understand them. It's all good. Right, so keep that one aside from your quote sheet, and we can get going. Just going to move all these out the way. As usual, with Celebr8, your double spread is already done. So 1A and 1B. I'm going to actually just leave 1B labeled. I'm going to start with 1A. 1A, and then we're going to take, I have noticed, Janice actually pointed out, I've got a couple G's, I've got a couple, I think it was F's. We'll go through them. They're different pieces of paper, so it's not the end of the world. I have figured out a way in future not to double up on my letters. Even classes I taught in Australia earlier this year, I doubled up on my letters. I obviously need to go back to grade 1. But we're going to have fun, and we're going to just enjoy the moment. So we're going to start off with 1G, but the plaid or tartan or whatever you want to call this piece. So it's a 4.5 by 5 inch piece. I'm going to start with that piece. I'm just going to grab that. And this one's going to come in 5.5 inches. So I'm going to grab a pencil just to show you a quick and easy way. I'll stay on top of everything. It's going to be a third of my pencil, so I'm just going to grab a pen. Okay, so it was 5.5 inches in, I really need this pen. Okay, so I'm going to put 5.5 inches in. Just use another little ruler. And then it's going to be 2.5 from the bottom. So 5.5 in, 2.5 from the bottom. He's going there. And he's going 5 inches across. So that way around. And he is going to be stuck flat. I'm changing up how I teach just because from experience in the last tour. The Australian ladies, if you're watching, thank you for teaching me this trick. Seem to be able to follow a lot easier if we do 1/2 at a time. So I'm going to do 1/2 at a time for South Africans as well, especially if you're in a classroom environment when you don't have too much space to actually work on a double at one time. Just working on 1/2 the page at a time makes it easy, and then you don't actually have to worry about cutting the page afterwards. So it just made a whole lot of sense to do it that way. Before I used to just teach a double and cut it afterwards to avoid cutting pages that went over the two sides beforehand, but it just seemed to complicate matters. So we're just going to do 1/2 at a time. Okay, sorry, let me just, I actually worked with, so my measurements were a little bit off. I worked with this little dog. So you'll see the doggy there. There's a little black dots there. Line it up with a black dot next to the little doggy. You want to just make sure it's nice and straight. Make sure the measurements are the same. So you can see nicely with the big ruler. So that's sitting at about 2.5. So that top black dot. You move across 2.5. And there we go, nice and straight. First piece on. Now this layout, you can see I dimensioned a lot. So I'm going to teach as if the way I've done it. Again, a lot of people don't like it too bulky because you're going in your album and it thickens your album quite quickly. So if I say put a layer of foam and you want to keep it simple, flat, completely flat, then just ignore that part and just put normal tape. But for those who are following along, I'll explain each layer as we go. Right, so the next piece we are going to work with is one eye. I'm not sure if there were two one eyes, but this is the one eye we're looking for. So it's the 6 by 5 inch. Just put pieces of used side. So this one, the purpose was for our titles to come on here, well, our little quote, because it's just very cute. For those who love cats will understand completely how they love to talk. Okay, I use foam sheets to mount. I did explain in Australia that tried to price it there and it was crazy expensive. So a whole lot is on its way to our distributor in Australia. So you can get the foam sheets from our distributor, Celebr8 distributor in Oz. For those in South Africa, you know, the cheap craft stores, hopefully some of your actual scrapbook stores have bought it in as well. So one side's adhesive, one side's not. You can use your foam tape, but it does turn out to be quite expensive. And using foam obviously is much lighter than using cardboard or chipboard. But it's optional. It's purely what you prefer. I'm lazy, so this cuts nicely. It's nice and light. So that's what I like to use. So they actually come in A4 sheets. Right, and as you can see, this one was a cheapie for South Africa, $4.95. Right, so this one we're going to mount. So it was 5 by 4.5. So I'm just going to take the trimmer. 4 by 3.5, just to give us some extra space. As Juliet used to call it, tuck space. Well, I think I've given it way too much tuck space. I have. So I'm going to cut a different piece. I'm going to cut a 4 by 4.5. And then you've still got plenty of tuck space. So I'm just gonna... I feel like I might be going a bit fast. think it's nerves at the beginning of a class. So I'm just going to start slowing down a bit. Someone stresses out. Remember, if I am going too fast or you don't have something that I'm using, you need to go find it. Just hit the space bar or pause the program or the video and then come back and hit the space bar again and you're good to continue. All right. So obviously you'll still need to put tape on the one side of your foam. So it's only one side is adhesive. And this time I worked with this part of the layouts. So you can see here, I like to actually work with the pictures now because it's easier than measuring the whole time. But for those who would like a measurement, comes in just over 2 inches in from the left, just above the towels, which is about 6.5. So just over 2 and 6.5. So we're looking at towels dip, and then there's a little peak here. We're looking at that peak, and again this one is going landscape, so it's just above the peak there. You'll see it's just under the bricks here. Maybe you actually line up with the top of the bricks there. So you've got your beautiful flowers, and then you've got the peak of the towel there, and down it goes. All right, the next piece, which I didn't cut, oops, see I'm still learning as I go, is going to be 5.25 inches. So we got the 7.5 by 3.5. We need to cut it down to 5.25 this way. Oops, I'm doing in front of you. 5.25. Yeah, so these two pieces work together. We're working with this piece now. I'm just going to clip this onto the side piece. So obviously this is going to go flush with the side like that. This one is going to be double mounted. So we're just going to put foam. Just trying to use it off because I cut wrong before. And when you're using foam, you don't have to worry that pieces are exactly the right size or shape, whatever. You can puzzle them up at the back so there's no wastage. This one, don't like to waste. Having little bits and pieces floating around as well in case one day you might use it. It's just annoying. So I like to use all my offcuts as I work with them. Okay, so there's my one layer of foam. But the problem is I'm going to overlap it on, this is already mounted ones. So this mounted one is going to go up at an angle like that, which means you're going to have to mount this part again. So what I'm simply going to do, let me see how high it goes. So it goes about 3.5 inches up from the top. So we're going to measure 3.5. 3.5. There we go. So it's just a small little overlap. So I'm just going to make a mark with it in place. And of course my pen wouldn't work. Three, 3.5. 3.5. There we go. And then flash to the side. So just lift it up a little bit and just put a little ink mark. And then I'm going to do the same on the side, just a little ink mark. Then I know that's the area that doesn't need foam. So let's see, just roughly. Obviously, you don't have to be perfect about it. Just a little hack. Okay, it's an off-cut piece of foam, so I'm just using what I have. So you can just puzzle it together at the back to make it as easy and user-friendly as possible. To show you, I know the OCD ladies are not going to be too happy, but it's messy at the back. No one's going to see that. That's going to get stuck down on the layouts. No one's going to see a thing. Who would have said it's messy at the back? So you've got a little step there where it's already double layered. I can actually use that as our spacer. Let's make sure it's 3.5. Flush against the side. You can use the tartan or plaid, whatever you want to call it. So line up straight. And there is that piece. Then we are going to move on to 1C. 1C is going to be a piece there. All right, this also gets layered. So this is quite a dimensioned layout. To me, it's really effective. I love my layouts to pop. So it's already 4.5 by 6. So I'm going to cut a piece that is 4 by 5.5. Boom. Show you 4 by 5.5. And over. We're using the floral side. Okay. So now this one is already single layered. I mean double layered. That one is single layered. So this one at this point here is now triple layered. So we need to work on triple layering the back here. It's just a little bit of an overlap, so we don't have to worry about that as long as our tuck spot is big enough. So again, I'm going to take my pen, whatever our height is from the top. 4 3/4 from the bottom. So go 4 3/4 from the bottom. So I think I should use that towel there. Use the towel. There we go. So we're needing to concentrate on where it needs to be raised underneath again. So I'm doing a little pen mark. It's pretty much in line. Oh, pen didn't work. Yeah, so there's my pen. And I know now anywhere under that does not need to be foamed again. Anything above here needs to be foamed twice more. Just let it with a bit of a scrap. So that's one layer one. The joys of this foam, put a little marker in, line the marker over the side of my trimmer. It cuts like a hot knife through the butter. There you go. So you formed a step. When you put it in place, they're all going to be nice and flat now. Here that I might have gone a little bit over because I see this page bending backwards a bit. So I'm just going to remove a little bit from the side here. It's good for you to see what happens if you go a little bit too far over. So just gently pulling it back. So my tuck spot wasn't big enough. That's what I did wrong there. But it's easy enough to fix. Just make sure you fix it before you stick it on your layout. So just cut a little extra off. And there we go. That's much better. So we can stick that piece in place. the more you work with the foam and doing the layering, like I like to do, the easier it becomes. And little hacks that you learn, like now, just cutting off that little extra bits instead of fussing too much. It really is effective. But again, if you're putting it into your album, it does bulk up your albums. So something you don't particularly like, then please don't do it, or minimalize it a bit. So use that line there, and it's flush against the side. Let's go to portraits. Have it. And then you have 3 pieces of wood. What's the other one? So you have G, H, F, G, and H. F, G, and H. I'm just using F. It doesn't matter which one you use. This is also going to be mounted, and this is our first photo mat. So that was 5 by 3.5. So I'm going to do 4 by 3, 4.5 by 3. And I changed it so the wood grain was facing up. So 90 degrees to the way it was actually designed. Okay, so this photo mat is actually now 4 layers of foam high. For those who don't want it as high, I would probably recommend doing maybe these 3 layers all flat, the background ones, doing this as a layer, and then doing the photo mat as another layer, just to make your photos pop. As far as the way I like to scrap is to celebrate the photos themselves. It's obviously different forms of scrapbooking now, where it's either the art form, where there's one photo and a lot of paper, or it's the photo form where it's more about the memory, and that's kind of trying to go in between there with the two, so that you can see I use a lot of paper, but I want the photos to pop as well. So that is your first half of layout 1 done. Very easy, very basic, lots of fun. And now we are going to carry on with the second half. See, they line up. So we're now moving on to 1B. I'm just going to leave this here for reference sake. You'll see why in a moment. So the first piece we're going to go work with is 1F. It's got dots on the one side. We're actually using the tartan plaid side. Okay, and he's going to go flush, and use my paper again. So he goes around there, like filling in that gap, that white gap, without any flowers or bricks. But there's a brick there, just up there. I use that as the top section. So the top line, and then just fills in that little gap. It's just a layer, so it doesn't matter really where the measurement is, but I just wanted to fill in that little gap. This one goes straight down, no foam. Just like on the first half of the page, you see it's nice and flat. So I try to make it fairly even, paper-wise and height-wise, on both sides of the page, just to have a bit of unity between the 2 sides. So on both sides, you'll see the plaid coming through, or the tartan, what you want to call it. You'll see the wood coming through on both sides. You'll see the plain paper coming through on both sides. It's just to balance it off. So we're going to use that brick there, fill in the gap. This is grey landscape. Brick there, moving it over. Use paper. You could actually use that brick there to make sure you're nice and straight. And down it goes. Then we are going to move on to our tiny little 1 eye. So 1 eye would be this plain coming through onto this side, and this was layered with one section of foam. So we are going to put one section of foam on this one. See how you can use it to show the offcuts and make it work. Try not to have much left over afterwards of the little pieces. Big pieces you can cut up, but little pieces, they're just a pain to keep. So that being said, even this little piece now, I won't throw away until I've completely finished my layouts, because it can be used as one of the little embellishments. Like for this little kitty, I could stick it underneath there. Waste not, want not. So we got this. Just checking the positioning, what I use it with. So you can see here I use it next to the brick and then just along. So we're going up the layout. You'll see there's beautiful vine, and then the bricks almost stop. It's just like a plastered section. We're going to go up a little bit on that plaster section, just off the side and across. For those who are wanting a measurement, let's do it at 4 1/4 inches up from the top. Just to give you a rough idea, 4 1/4. Roughly. So you see there's that section. Oopsie, oopsie, oopsie. And just a little bit, little bit off. Make it straight, 4 1/4. And down it goes. And the next piece is 1H tiles, terracotta tiles, really beautiful. Okay, this piece on the side here was layered twice. So again, this is going to be layered twice. I lost my measurement piece there. Okay, so here is 3.5 by 4.5. So I'm going to do 3 by 4. Not vital. The size of the foam is. Just make sure you keep a tuck spot. You don't want to be seeing the foam popping out the sides. And if you want to do another little layer underneath, or stick a piece of acetate that pops out the side, chipboard, you need to have a little bit of space to play. So Juliet's beautiful little term, tuck spot. Adopted it. Use it all the time. Thanks, Juliet. Helps to explain the little space between. A very elegant way of saying it. Little tuck spot. Okay, so this one, again, I use the paper. I get stressed out if I get too many measurements in a class as a student. So again, I've used the bricks and I've used the plaid there. You'll see there's a little gap. For those who are wanting measurements, it's just over 1/4 from the top and 1.5 in from the side. So I'm going to go with the plaid. I'm going to leave a top row of plaid. And then I'm going to right to the edge where the bricks are. So not covering the bricks. You'll see there's a little line at the end of the bricks. I'm going to use that. And I'm going to use a top row of plaid. And I'm going to stick it down. Landscape. Nice and easy. Now this is where we need to have the other side alongside your piece you're working on. Piece we cut, remember, that was a 7.5 by 3.5. We had to cut it down. So we're going to use the other half now, or the other section, and we're going to join it up to make it look like it was still one piece. So that was 1G, but the second piece of 1G. Again, it needs 2 layers of foam. Remember your little tuck spot, because it's going to overlap that ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. And this is going to be laid twice. 3.5, so we'll cut 3. I'm going to cut 2 pieces. That measurement. Happening off screen here is just cutting the foam tape, so there's nothing to really worry about. Oops. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. It does happen if you try to the backing off too fast. 1. And you just want to line it up with the pattern. So have I done it the right way? Is that right? Looks about right. Again, because of the tuck spot, we don't have to worry about the step there. Make sure. No, that's not right. It needs to be square. So that is right. And we're going to stick it down. See how it just overlaps there. That's the joy of the tuck spots. Having all the papers pre-cut like Dennis has been teaching the last couple times definitely seems to help, for me anyway. You can cut the paper at your own pace, own time, triple check your measurements before you cut. So we're going to keep going on like that with our classes. But obviously just let us know if you prefer us cutting with you in class or you prefer the cutting guide. For me, it's a lot less stressful cutting the paper beforehand because I still make mistakes, even though I've done the project and I know what I'm doing, but it's just, yeah, sometimes, I don't know, things go a little bit off. Like here, I can see something's gone a little bit off because we're actually supposed to have another piece of it. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. So the next piece of paper is going to be 1D. 1D. And remember, this is now 3 layers of foam. So we're going to start off with just putting 1 layer on the back, as is. So that will be now a 7 by 5.5. So you can see what I'm doing. 5.5. So back to 7. You really shouldn't work on your layouts, but time is against the space is not our friend at the moment. And actually move this out of the way until we get to the one. Okay, so as I've mentioned, this needs to be layered up 3 times. So we've got 1. Here's already done another 1. So we need to lay underneath. So let's make life easier. Put that there, put that there. Line it up. Just put a little pen mark just below the top line. Little pen mark just in from the side. And now we're going to start working with foam on our base. So this is where you can get all your little scraps. Scraps lying around. Like a little jigsaw puzzle. So if you see, yep, that will work there. Wouldn't recommend going right up to that line. Just keep a bit of space safe. Yeah. See what I mean, but you can just use these little pieces, fill in spaces. No one's going to see anything. Just almost hear people screaming at me like all these OCD ladies. I want her to just let go, have some fun. Don't worry about measuring. perfect is that? We've got a nice skinny piece here. Now this layer that we just put down equals this one. Now we need to get up to this level. So we need to cut some more. Just going to grab a ruler. So let's say we do about a 5.5. And we're working with that red line, or the little line that we drew in the very beginning of this section. So these red lines, we need to build it up by keeping in mind what layers everything is sitting in. So now everything is sitting at a minimum of 1. Some are already at 2 layers. And now we're building up the other parts that are only 1, but need to be 2 layers. So there. And he's only layer 1, so I'm going to just check if I need to trim them off or not. And I won't need to. There we go. I can stick this one down. Just close to that. So now they're all sitting at 2 layers. And our 3rd layer is already stuck on here. Now it's a case of sticking it in place. This you'll need the first half of your layout. It all works together. Try and match up your patterns. If it doesn't match up, no one's going to really notice, but I think I actually stuck the other one in the wrong way. So no one really is going to notice that. So just make sure my 2 sides are flush against each other. So no incorrect overlap. So you want to make it look like it's one big piece, which it was initially before we cut it. I can put the side on the side again. Then we have this little 1E, and this 1E is going to be stuck here. Again, it needs to be 3 layers high, so we're going to stick a layer straight onto the back of it. So 1 inch, and let's just stick it 1/2 inch. Tuck spots, perfect. Just to practice that little thing with a pen. It's there. It's going to go just over there, so that's fine. We don't have to worry about too much there. And just about there. So this is already 2 layers. That's 1 layer, and that's obviously no layers. So we need to fill in this little space without overlapping the papers. So now these 2 are sitting at 1 layer. This is sitting at 2 layers. So we need to add 1 more layer to this lower section. To make it line up with that. And that away. Under there. I just tuck it under, again using that tuck spot. And then this one's already got That up nicely. Right, flush against the side. Put the two pieces together. Your terracotta towel should line up and your florals should line up. We're going to use the other side to work with 1H and 1G, which are your two remaining photo mats. Also need to be raised. So I'm going to cut pieces roughly 1.5 inches by 3 inches. Working with a frame, you don't need the other mouse. Side. You did that a bit wrong. I actually wanted to record this class on Friday, but due to load shedding, we were unable to when I was available, and when I was available did not line up. So now doing the Saturday morning, but my brain has gone into weekend mode. So lots of little errors. I'm going to do the assembly for all 3 layers before I show you what I do with the chipboard, just to keep our workspace nice and clean. Don't want to get ink on our papers for the second layout and third layers. Because we're actually coming to the end of layout 1 already. Get going. Lining up. If you want to do a little bit of a hack, you can put your ruler down. Should lines up nicely. And then we evenly space. So I check the edge there. What is that edge looking like? Oh, I'm going to make a similar side here. And then the one in the middle. Just center between those two. So make it look roughly the same. Ruler. Bumping my mouse. Ruler. There we go. And then this fits nicely in that gap. I also actually raised that, so I'm going to do that quickly now. So we don't have pieces of paper floating around. So I'm just going to use a scrap. Scraps of foam here, but I'll be able to use those in the second or third layouts or embellishments. And then I did an even border, top, bottom, and left-hand side. A little bit extra space on the right, just for an embellishment to go there. So that is layout 1, basic, done. We'll still need to add our fussy cut elements, our chipboard, show you how I did the texture paste. But you've got the basic of layout 1 already complete. Well done. That was pretty quick going. I think I'll take the next one's a little bit slower. And the next one is a little bit different, a little bit complicated in a section, just a section. So we'll need to just take it nice and slow so no one panics. But that's layout 1. I'm just going to pause the video just so I can clean up for layout 2. And I'll be back to help you out with layout 2. See you shortly. We're back for layout 2. Here we go. So as I said, there was a little bit of a complicated section to it. It's just this little kennel that opens up and turns into a little booklet. It's the only complicated section of this layout. It's going to be lots of fun. We're going to take it nice and slow. So we're needing all our pieces from when you cut our stuff from page 2 or pile 2, whatever you want to call it. And again, we're going to do the 2 halves separately. But before we even start on the halves, we're going to do the kennel. If we can get the kennel out the way before we do anything, it's going to make life a lot easier. It's a cute little kennel. So we're going to take our pile 2. You'll find there's a kennel shape there, sort of a kennel shape there. Another kennel shape there. Those 2. Count the pages. Make sure we have everything. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. You've got them. So all the others we can just put away for now. Right, I see I've done something already. It's not quite right on the cutting guide. So it's going to be a little bit different to my booklet, where my booklet opens up to the left. Your booklet is going to open up to the right. No major problem, just a little different. So we had this one with a nice big score. Just fold your score lines again, make sure that everything's the ones with the black one, there's no score line. With the floral, there's a score line. With the wood grain, there's a score line. So when you put them all together, they should roughly be the same. The reason we're doing this together now, before we even stick it onto the layout, is we can put it all together. And if there's anything overlapping a bit that shouldn't be there, we can trim it off before we stick it on the layouts. So it gives us a little bit of space to play without getting too stressed out. Then these 2 little sheets should have score lines as well. We're just going to fold those back. These do not matter which way you put them in, which one's going to be your front or back. It's a booklet, so you'll still see the pages. It's no big deal. So please have fun with this. It's just a little, to me, I just want it to be a little bit quirky. Just something a little bit different to the usual. So we're going to start off with the complicated section, which is going to be 2F. So 2F, we folded it back. This is the cover of our kennel, the front of our kennel, 2F. Now we still got to cut out our little arch for the doggy to go into the kennel, which I didn't want to do beforehand because I need to do it with you just to make sure no one gets confused. So you see there's a little arch here that I cut out. So the arch is sitting at about 3.5 inches up from the bottom. So I'm actually going to turn it over and work from the back. So 3.5 inches up from the bottom. I'm just going to do a little pencil mark or pen mark, 3.5, 3.5. As you can see, we cover the back here, so you're not going to see that. I'm not sure if I actually cut that piece. I'll just check. So we're just going to draw a line across there, just from the score line across the other. So it's 3.5 up from the bottom. All right, so from the score line across, it should be 6 inches. So the middle of that is now 3 inches. And what I did for handiness sake is I took a roll of tape to get my arch. So I put that centered. Let's see here, that's 6. So I want to make sure that this is centered. 6, so sitting at around about on the inside of the circle. So there's 1.5, 1.5. So I need to just move a little bit to make it centered. Maybe kennels aren't perfect, so it doesn't matter. So I'm really about 1.5, 1.5 to the center of your circle. Make sure your circle's at that dot, and you can just use it as a template halfway around. And then we're going to do, so this is 1.5 roughly. There. This straight. There. So you use what's on hand. This is what's on the hand. Works a charm. I think most of the rolls are pretty much standard in a circle size. And then we're going to take our scissors. And I'm going to cut just to the inside of that red line because I don't want to see the red line. We're using this cutout piece in reverse. So just within that red line, you don't want to see your ink. Try to do it as cleanly as possible. Right. So there's your little doghouse with the door cut out. So we just cut that out, but we're going to flip it around, and that's going to be the filler. So we've got the same piece. We're going to flip it around so the wood grain shows. Put it on top of, should be the same size, but if there is any little overlaps for whatever reason, and then I'm just going to actually, I'm not going to tape it in place yet. Okay, so that is the front. That was probably the most complicated cut that we are going to do of this layout. So to give you an idea now. From here, I'm missing that piece. Did I not cut it? So I'm double check something. Okay, was cut, just wasn't labeled. So you've got this piece from your offcuts. It's the back of this. It's a nice dark cardstock. So it was a piece where they had a lighter cardstock and a darker cardstock on one sheet. Just need to take that out. That should have been labeled because we're actually using that. Because that is going to be going onto the back of that. And then we're going to stick that on there. But to start with, I'm going to line it up like this. Top and bottom. Again, we're going to use a little pen. Just to get a rough idea where we need to put this piece on. There. Just so we know what we're working with. Okay. Now this is going to be stuck flat on. No, it's not. Sorry. I'm confusing myself. Put it backwards, back to front. We're going to stick it this way. See what I mean by the most complicated section? I'm forgetting what I did. Okay, so nice and flush. Just turned it around. And we're going to tape this back in place, but in the reverse. We're going to do all of it, just so it holds nicely. The top and bottom should be fine. Okay, here we'll just fix up if there's anything sticking out. I think a little embellishment can't fix. some reason mine's giving me a little bit of trouble. This underneath. Should be underneath the wood grain, not on top of it. Okay, there we go. Right, and then this piece, we're leaving the protective layer on there. We're going to make this into a pocket. So we're going to take the thinnest tape we've got, and we're going to put it on the two sides and on the bottom. Bottom. Don't stress if there's a millimeter sticking out. We will go back and we'll trim it all up nicely. There's no point in trimming as we go because we're probably going to have to trim it again once all the layers are down. So we're just going to go page by page and then we will clean it up afterwards. Right. So as you can see, I've got a little triangle sticking out of the top there. We'll clean it up afterwards. It's not a problem. And don't do what I've just done and ignore my fold line. Make sure you got your fold line. Don't put it over the fold line. Score line. Make sure you go a little bit in from that. So now I'm actually going to have a whole strip here. But that's fine. We will clean it up afterwards. So that is the cover of your little kennel. Then we're going to go and put in our other pages. So the next page is going to be that triangle. Something. So this triangle, we are going to put tape on the floral side on the scored little flap. The floral side, this floral side. Got it. And then we're going to stick on 2K. So again, make sure you don't overlap the score line. 2K. Line it down flat. That again. And then fold it over. The easiest way to do it. 2K. And then we have as far as I can remember, you have to bear with me. I actually put a layer of foam on, but I don't know if we should do that. What we're going to do is we actually are going to put a layer of foam just to give it that dimension. So I'm going to put a thin layer of foam down that gap there. So it's about 1/4 inch wide, roughly. Here, obviously, you can use your foam tape. Maybe easier, but I've got a thick one. So just explaining why I'm not going to use it. It's too thick. I need it to be about 1/4 inch wide. So I'm going to take a foam sheet and cut about 1/4 inch strip. And tape on this side. if your tape goes over the edge of, you should cut, doesn't matter, just fold it over. Fold it up. We're going to have to create a second score line. So this doesn't go over the first score line. There we go. Click down. Grab a scoreboard quickly. Move it to it from the bottom. Let's do it next to the tape that you put down. So it should fold. Just be careful if you're taking it back off. Not essential to do that. Pages will force fold, but it's trying to make life a little bit easier in the long run. Oh, sorry. Okay. Doing. You need to put it on the second fold, not the first. Second fold. I'm confusing myself here. Yes. So you've got a little bit of a space there. And there, line it up as much as you can. You've got two folds. So I need to go and line up the second fold. I have to squish it down a bit. Trying to give height or dimension to the little kennel. So he's sticking it down like that. So you have a little gap here. You can fix that up. No problem. Right. And you've obviously got a little pocket here. A little pocket. So when we stick these down, that's where we can fix up any little problems that cause. Okay, so that is a, I'll take all these off. There's your little kennel. Now you see there's all sorts of little imperfections. Just finish putting the other pages in, and then we can clean up the imperfections. So I'm going to stick that page in there. And this is a kennel, it's not supposed to be perfect. So here you can flip it around whichever way you want it to be. I'd like to play it on the front, so I'm going to put the tape on the dotty side. Line up the sides. Take it down. Then we're going to flip another triangle over. Put it line up the sides, and we're going to stick it down. This time, I think I want. Let's see. I think I've got the dotty size up, so I'm going to put it on. We go. So there's our little kennel, and you'll see there are imperfections. It's going to happen just the way it is. So this is where we use our wonderful little craft blades and metal ruler to just clean up any little imperfections that we're not happy with. Just make sure you're happy with your fold. We'll be standing up a little bit, and you're going to use the wood grain, your front, as your template, so everything lines up behind your front. So just go over a few times. Holding your ruler nice and securely in place. Same top here. There, and even down the side. There's only just thin little slivers. That's where the fold marks have been. And it's just little imperfections that unfortunately we can't avoid, but we can correct. Let's go a few times, so a few pages here. Remember, the rectangular pages weren't at the top, they were only on the side, so just make sure it's nice and clean before we move it away. There we go. Now you got yourself a nice, neat little kennel. Super cute. Super, super, super cute. And you have your pocket as well. So that's most complicated elements on this page. So now you've got your own little kennel. Super, super cute. And we can carry on with construction. So you've got rid of all those little pieces of paper that you've used to make the kennel. Again, we're going to start on the left-hand side first. So we are going to need 2A. That's 2A. Actually, before we continue, I want to show you this little embellishment part of here, just so we don't have to stick it on afterwards, because it can get a bit complicated sticking it on afterwards. So I did little edging on the roof. So I just want to quickly do that now before we stick it on. So if there are any little errors, nothing in the world. Yeah, I just took an offcut piece of the terracotta. It's not essential to the layout, but I just think it finished the kennel off quite nicely. So I took a offcut piece, used just normal foam tape before I cut or did anything. Stuck a nice thick piece of foam tape on. And I took my trimmer. This piece is currently sitting at 1.5, so I'm going to cut 1/4 with the foam on it already. Make it nice and straight. You can see nicely if the terracotta tiles are straight or not. And then I'm going to cut it down to 1. So 2 1/4 strips. There you go. Easy peasy. And then they're going to get stuck like that. But before we stick, we obviously have to fix this corner up. So it needs to be cut at an angle. For the roof, I keep this just cut straight. And here I just eyeball it. So you see the point. Turn it over so you can see. So you see the point of the papers here. We need to go straight down. Cut off a little triangle. So I'm just going to eyeball it again. And we can correct it on the second half. So I cut the wrong angle, but that's fine. So you have a little bit of overlapping, it's fine. It's so small, if there's any indiscrepancies, it's really not going to be noticed. It just finishes off the kennel really, really nicely, I thought. There's your little, then you've got another piece. I don't know if it'll be big enough. No, it won't be. The other little piece, make sure it overlaps before you trim it down. So actually, before you trim it down, in case we need to fix it, put it over, eyeball where you need to cut the triangle. So I'm going to put a little pinch mark there. Tip to pinch. See if it goes nicely, fits nicely. Even squish it a little bit if you need to. And then I'm going to cut my straight line. Squish it in there. Foam, you've got a bit of play. So yeah, remember, you are going to be opening this album, so you can't have the overlap too far. Just going to cut it right towards the edge there. And then make it even on the other side. Okay, so that's just your little roof section of your kennel. Right. Now we can move on to the actual layout. So we're working now with 2A. You'll need your kennel. You will need pieces. 2L, terracotta. I think it's short. Then we'll need 2E, the floral side. Then we need a nice big plaid section. 2G, plaid. These out so you can see them all. Find the other pieces. And then we'll need black. 2J, let me just double check. Yep, 2J. This layout hasn't been layered as much simply because this was complicated, so I didn't want to overwhelm you. Right, so these are the pieces we are going to need next. Only one are layered, so if you want to do that first, is 2J. This is a photo mat. Again, I wanted to celebrate the photos, so I'm going to just quickly cut a piece of foam for this, which is going to be about 4.5 by 3.5. It's roughly 4.5 by 3.5. 1.5, 3.5. And you're welcome to use your scraps. But if you have big enough ones, small enough and enough of them to puzzle up. And while we're doing that, we may as well just put tape on the back of all the others, leaving tuck spots. Okay, so we are using the plaid side, so we can put tape on the back of the plaid, so on the dots. The plaid one, just single. This one we put the foam, but I still need to put a layer of tape on the back of it. All right, so that is 2J. We have 2E. First piece we're going to be working with is actually 2L. And I did something a little bit unique on the base of this page. So 2L I wanted to tuck behind the fences. So again, I used my actual base page to work with. Just to show you here, see where we're going. So I didn't cut little triangles out of the terracotta. I just went with the blade and cut through so I could tuck it through. Okay, so we're going to go with, so you got your little doggy, you got your flowers, and then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little fence blades, fence posts, sorry. So I'm going to actually keep it here so I can see nicely. See if I can give you better instructions. So you start with a fence post, the tip of the fence post at 4 inches. So we've got 4 inches. So it's this one here. You've got your nice floral section. So there's a big gold dot above it. And we're just going to use our blade and go along with it. Just see. So you got the big gold splatter. Maybe I'll go along like that. Now when I'm doing stuff like this, even the fussy cutting, I like to see what I'm trying to keep. So I turn it upside down. And then I'm going to, sorry, don't turn it upside down. I'm going to work from the other side first. So I'm going to use my ruler and I'm just going to quickly do all the same angles. So that one there, that one there, that one there. I'm leaving a little bit of space just to blend in with the fussy cuts. So they all have that white little border. And now I'm going to turn upside down. That's what I'm initially going to do. So I can see the other angles. So I'm going to go there, there. We're not cutting this loose. We're just making it so I can tuck that piece behind. Okay, then I just go freehand and make sure it's all joined into one line. So if it's not, obviously the paper is not going to tuck behind. Use your hand and see where it needs to pop a bit more. There we go. Just there we go. Yeah. And there we go. Okay, so we have now our 2L, which needs to slip into this space, which is not going to yet. Of course not. Still not gonna. I'm gonna just do a little bit of a. Okay. Just, right, just for detail's sake, I'm gonna chop these little bits off in the middle. Taking out these little pieces. And around, just get those little pieces out loose. And again, it's still not fitting. So I'm just going to do it. Yeah. Just need to fiddle until it's big enough. And it lines up with that first horizontal line on the fence. So where it gets stuck, ruler. So it lines up with the top pillar here. And nice and straight. So it lines up the peak of that post where we started, and then lines up with the horizontal line of that first fence. The first, sure, fence. Wow. Let's get an idea. So we're going to tuck it underneath, line up with that peak of that very top, line up with fence there. So it's lining up with that horizontal line of the fence, which is at about 1 1/4. So you can check on the other side, 1 1/4, make it nice and straight. From the side, it's about 4 inches. So if you want to make sure it's straight from the side, 4 inches. And down like that. Little bit of an unusual one, but it's in. It looks good. And we can continue. Next one is going to be our nice big plaid. This one, check which angle it goes into. This one goes landscape. So let's turn it around. Landscape, so it's actually going to be 6.5 wide. Yep. And again, I use my paper as the marking points. So you'll see your brick at the top. So you've got one little brick, and then you've got 2 bricks. I use the 2 brick as the top marker, and then it goes flush to the side. So we'll overlap your terracotta ever so slightly. So remember to make it landscape. Yeah, landscape. It's a bit tricky to see. Use your 2 bricks as the start and flush to the edge. Perfect. Then we're going to move on to 2E, the floral piece. 2E. And that's going to be positioned up here. Let's see what I use on my page. Okay, so use the kitty's ear. So the base of the kitty's ear is where that corner goes. So you've got your beautiful cat here. Mancoon, I think, not sure. And then I just overlapped it. So you don't want to cover up the kitty, but it's right next to the kitty's base of the kitty's ear. Much easier than giving you measurements. You can just look at your picture and say, oh, okay, there's the kitty. You've got the top of the ear, and then you've got your little base. So the head goes up, and then the ear. So where the head and the ear meet without overlapping the cat. Again, it is going to be landscape. So it will overlap the plaid, which will help you see if you're straight or not. Also a layer of bricks at the top. So it's basically 2 layers of bricks down from the top, and you stick it down. Then we have our photo mat, which fills in that funny little gap that we've got at the moment. There. And that one, I used a door panel. So you've got the door with a handle, then you've got another little narrow panel in there. So I covered that narrow panel, and I went up to roughly the top of the cat's ear. If you go height-wise. So it overlaps terracotta, overlaps the flowers, and overlaps plaid. And that goes down like that. If somebody wants measurements, it is about 1 3/4 roughly from the side, and about 4 inches from the bottom. But again, just use the cat as your marker. So we've used the cat as the base of the cat's ear for the floral, and then it's the top of the cat's ear for the black. So you'll see there's a little overlap there. Cat ear height overlap. Then we are going to stick a little doggy kennel in. So turn him over. I think I'm actually going to use red tape for this, just to make sure he sticks nicely in place. I'm actually going to put a little bit where the overlap as well, just to make it a bit stronger. So South African ladies, what do you think about the Aussie way, where they do one half at a time? Does make life a bit more manageable. Not as many pieces of paper floating around. Definitely gives you a bit more space to work with. Otherwise, we'd have this double section with papers everywhere and tape everywhere. Okay, I've still got a big mess, but not as big as it would have been if I was doing the full double at once. Just got to say, coming back from the Oz tour and I'm back here, it's like I really miss our big Celebr8 events. And we'd love to still do those. Unfortunately, financially in South Africa, it's not viable for us to rent the big spaces and catering, and it's insane. It's really, the price of things after COVID now have just gone nuts. So I definitely miss seeing you ladies face to face and being able to catch up. Please don't feel that we don't miss it. We definitely do. When I'm in Oz, we do multiple classes, so it's not a big venue. It's just little venues, but all over. We're generally staying at teachers' store owners' houses and stuff to save on costs and things. So that's how it's possible in Oz. So South Africans, please don't feel neglected. We do love you very much, and we appreciate all that you've done for us and taken the brand so far and helped us through COVID and getting our kids through school. I can't actually explain to how grateful we are. And we really would love to do big events again, but it's going to cost us, and unfortunately we can't afford that at this stage. So the only way we can do tours and things is like we do in Oz, where we do multiple places, so we don't have to have these huge venue hire costs and catering costs and all that. Just to clarify, because I had a few people saying to me, why do you tour in Oz but you don't tour here? I was like, well, they invite us to go places in Oz, so we're obliged, and they're quite happy to put us up in their homes, so it saves massively on costs. So that's the only reason why it's not happening in South Africa, but it's happening in Australia. So please don't feel like we are neglecting you in any way. Right, so now we are onto the right-hand side of the page. Oh, I've already taken a label off. I didn't even check what label it was. I think it's 2I. So the other plaid piece. There, and we are going to stick him down straight away. Why not? But is it the right piece? That's the question. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to take all those remaining pieces apart from the black ones, so not 2K and 2L. 2K and 2L we need to put foam on first, but the rest we are going to put on the plaid side. Back of that with dots, we're putting tape. Floral side we're keeping, so we're going to put tape on the dot side. Right. Then we're moving on to, what is this, 2H, dots again, and plaid. So we're using the plaid side. It's over. Yeah, for pieces that are a little bit too wide, to just leave one piece of tape, I just go and take my narrow tape and fill in a little space. We're using the plaid side there. And then we've got a little terracotta piece. Using the terracotta side. And then we're going to cut our road-to-match foam. So these ones are 6 by 4, so I'm going to cut 5.5 by 3.5. So that sitting around about 3, so I'll keep it at there. So that's the one, and then I'm going to use offcuts for the other one. Tape it as well. So, yeah. Even do this on the cutting guide. What to put foam on and what not to put foam on. It's simple like this. So that is 2K foam and tape. 2L. I'm going to use this where we can use all our little scraps. Build a puzzle. Oh, I've got a big scrap here as well. Keep that for something else. Balls. Mainly your tuck spots. Off cut pieces on my chest. The prep work is done. And we're going to take our narrow little plaid piece. So we're using 2H. 2H. And we're going to line it up with the other side of our layout. This way or that way, doesn't really matter. H goes in place. 2H. Then we are going to move on to the second plaid piece. We're going to make it appear as if the piece is continuing right through. So you can just take your ruler, if you want to measure, it is about just over 1.5. I'm going to just use my ruler. If you're nervous that your ruler's going at an angle, put your page plaid on your craft mat, ruler there, and line it up with the blocks on the other side. And then you know you're going to be going straight. So there, and make sure your page is straight though, of course. There. Okay, and this one, I used the page again, the actual layout itself. Just to show you. So I used this little cluster here. So you've got your beautiful door, and then you've got some foliage coming out from the side here. So I just went off the side of the foliage ever so slightly. I'll give you a measurement once I've put it roughly in place. So I'm reckoning about there. So you've got all this beautiful foliage, some sticking over the edge, and there's one little flower sticking out more than the rest. So I just cut into about half of him. So I'm just going to put a little mark here so I can tell you what the measurement is. So it is about 3.5, just under 3.5 from the right. I'm going to use the actual page itself and keeping my ruler to make sure I line up with my other plaid. So page straight, straight to the side, straight with that, and then stick it. You see, you got this little flower here. You got your beautiful roses. Then you've got this green foliage, and then there's one sticking out by itself. I covered about half of it up. A tiny little flower. And flush at the top of the other plaid. It's pretty straight. And there you go. Right, so that line up is done. Move this out the way. We also have this little piece of terracotta, which is just to bring in another level of interest. This piece goes in portrait shape. Your tuck spot's important. So he's going to come down flush to the top of your plaid, and then just above a rose there. Then this 2D, beautiful floral piece. It's going to join your two plaid sections together. Again, I used the paper itself as my marker. So you've got your bricks along the top here. You have two bricks together. I lined up with the side of the first brick. And then two. So you've got the two bricks that way. So we're lining it up along that line. And then I covered leaves, so it's about 3 bricks up. I'll give you a measurement as well. Just put the marker in. So it is roughly 1 inch in from the left and 1 inch down from the top. Obviously that goes portrait. One inch portrait. You can use your plaid to make sure you go nice and straight. Brick, plaid on either side, just make sure it looks equal. And we'll take you to just above the fence. Then we have our 2 photo mats that are the same size. It doesn't matter which one we put where. There we go. Right. So we're going to have one that comes in around there, and the other one we're going to use lining up with the bricks of the door and above the doggy's head. So you'll see there's a nice little space. So let's go. So it's actually just under the shelf of the door and next to the bricks. So we'll stick that one first. Spacing is much easier to tell with that one. Okay, so we got this beautiful frame of the door, and we've got the shelf above the door. So we're going to use that section there like that. Shelf of the door. So you end up with a little bit of floral underneath. This one is just a small gap of the plaid, just a tiny little gap of the plaid, some floral around the sides. A tiny gap there, tiny gap on the left, the plaid, tiny gap top of the plaid, and you'll have a little bit of floral underneath like that. So that's your second layout base done with your little Oido. This, oh, okay, sorry, let's just add in these little quotes to finish it off. So I added a little quote there. And I added this quote. Okay, these quotes were put on foam, so I'm just going to quickly use the leftover foam and stick them on. Because you can see that doesn't look finished without the quote. Just want to do these little ones for you. Obviously, you're welcome to do this later, and if you want to put a photo mat there rather, go for it. Just quite like these little quote pieces. I use 2 rectangular quotes. We're talking about balance on the first layout. So we got this all balanced, but the wood grain. So the quote with the wood grain, I put on this side, just to bring the 2 wood grains together. Just to keep in mind, if you want to do the same. Again, I use the page as its marker. Make sure you don't cover the kitty cat. And just goes there. And finishes that corner off nicely. Okay, like that. Like a second row of bricks. Yep, second row of bricks. Don't overlap the kitty. Leave a bit of space for the kitty. I like that little kitty cat. Probably use the plat. There we go. Like that. And then the other one was joining up these 2. Leaving space to put another fussy cut doggy. I overlapped it ever so slightly. Maybe a little bit of plaid there. A little bit more actually. There we go. What else? Stick these ones in as well then while we add it. So I use the 2 terracottas. You see there's a little bit of white on here. Just trim that off. Okay. My friend has fur and tail. My best friend, and you can't buy happiness, but you can rescue it. So true. Those 2 went like that, nice and flat. My best friend's head. So I'm lining up at the top of that photo mat and evenly in the floral space. And then this one, you can't buy happiness, but you can rescue it. Line it up with the side of this photo mat and even in the floral section. And then all these little adorable doggies. So cute. So cute. So I see there's white on them. So trim it off. These are all mounted on foam. Obviously when it's small like this, but you've got a roll of foam tape. The foam tape is quite wide. Don't worry about little foam squares, just use your foam tape. It's not going to use up too much. Random. Show you. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Take the golden retriever. Beautiful. Put him on the plaid here. Take the Australian sheepdog. Put him here. And finally the border collie, one of my personal favorites. This main quote, dogs do speak, but only to those who know how to listen. I just put in the back of my album. But that can come later because we're going to put other little elements and stuff first. So just so you know where he belongs, he's in there. Right, so layout 2, base of it, is done. Go to layout 2 and base of layout 2 done. We'll move on to layout 3 and then I'll show you what I did with the chipboard and a few other bits and pieces from there. But that is layout 2 with your cute little kennel, plenty of space for photos. Remember, this is actually a pocket as well, but we'll go through that in detail later. Well done. Layout 2. I didn't create too much of a mess, so I don't have to pause the video. Yay! This is our third and final layout. Very simple, just celebrating that little wreath that Dennis does so often. It's really beautiful. I don't often get to use them because it takes up so much space, but as a single, if you want to just quickly throw a single together and make it look like you've been working on it for years, this is the way to do it. Use that wreath. It's a really beautiful thing to use. So you're needing your PAL 3. And we're going to do something a little unusual. So obviously base of layout 3 is 3A, your wood grain. That's pretty straightforward. All right, so I'm going to just actually put them aside. 3A is what we use. Then we need our wreath. So I've actually even marked it 3B because he is a vital part of this layout. And then you're also going to need your fussy cut fence. Now, it's a pain, I know, but I honestly think it's worth cutting out in between the fence posts to have the effect. If you look on the layouts, it really makes it look like a fence. But if you're not too fussed, you don't have to. Just want to show you how the fence goes in and out. Okay, so it's up to you whether you want to go into detail, pause the video and cut out in between your fence. Just use your craft knife and a metal ruler, do all one direction, the other direction, turn it around, and carry on like that. So I'm going to leave it here. We're going to need, first 2 pages or pieces are going to be 3C and 3D. 3C and 3D. These are just going to get taped down flat. We're using the green dots. So flip them over. It's a beautiful floral. Green dots. So the first piece we're going to use is the smaller of the two. All right, and the stripes are going that way, so it's going to be a nice portrait shape, and is being stuck 2.5 inches up from the bottom. So 2.5 inches up from the bottom, through to there, 2.5, and flush to the side like that. Two and a half, flush to the side, and down it goes. And then we're going to do the same on the other side, 2.5. But you want to just see how, so it's going to go that way, so the lines line up. Yeah, right. Okay, 2.5 up from the bottom, 2.5, and flush to the side. There you go. Simple. Then we are going to take 3G, and I'm just going to put tape on the back of 3G. So we're using the nice peachy color, the beige color. Now for this one, you're going to need your wreath just to see positioning. So you're supposed to cover up the base of the wreath. The wreath is going to be going halfway there, up there. So I will give you a measurement. Okay, so your bottom little corner is going to peek out. Do the right measurement here. 1 1 3/4 from the bottom, and 2 from the right. I'm just going to do a red dot here, so I'm just going to measure again. Give you that measurement again shortly. And that red dot. So you can use your page here to line up your dots, make sure you're straight. Okay, so we are talking about 2 inches in from the right and 1 3/4 from the bottom. So when you put your wreath down, there's a little bit that sticks out at the bottom there. We're not sticking the wreath yet. Just want you to get a rough idea of where we're going. Right. The wreath needs to be mounted on foam. So I'm just going to use foam tape for this one. Just obviously leave tuck spots. But the whole wreath needs to be given a good piece of foam. Screen there. I'm not doing measuring anything. It'll be fun, not too technical. Cover the angle as well. And even just a little piece. Before I go any further, something a little bit bizarre we need to do with this wreath. So you need to just bear with me. I'll explain why we're doing it. This fence is going to be weaved in and out. But we don't want this big gap at the bottom here. So I'm going to cut a little slit through here so we can feed the fence through. I'll get the measurement of where I cut the slit. So we're all together. 7.5. No, I can't do it that way. So 4.5. And let's make sure. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually give you the picture. So if you got your wreath, you've got your flowers here. Let's take your ruler from the flower sticking out. And if you go across 4.5 inches, it's going to take you next to the flowers and the vine next to the dog. So if you put your ruler up, you'll see it's just on the edge of all those beautiful little pieces. I'm going to cut down. We're going to cut down to. It needs to be in line with this section here. But I'm going to cut a little bit further because I'm not actually cutting anything away. I'm just making a space for something to be fed through. You can see, it doesn't matter if we're going to put further, and then you're closing that gap. Nice and easy. Okay. We do cover this little cut section here, so it doesn't look so funny. So that ultimately, I'm going to stick that up there, move the wreath up to that point there. Oops, okay. A little bit of fiddling. And that's how we are going to put our layout together. Cute. But I also did something a little bit weird when it came to the actual fence. This half here, I put some foam tape on. So it comes up and rises nicely and creates dimension within the frame. The left-hand side goes down flat, so you don't have to worry about that. But if we go, let's see. Okay, I'm going to actually make life easier for all of us. That one goes there, make it straight. So let's cut 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth post, so you can get stuck straight down. So I'm going to grab some glue quickly. Who wants to come out for me? I'm using tape. I'll stick with tape then. You don't have to put on every single post. It is important that you work with your wreath. So you work on positioning, because remember in the middle here, you don't want to see anything but this cream beige piece of paper. And we don't want to see any cream beige up here. It's just this little piece down at the bottom. So always make sure your wreath is in place and relatively straight. You can tell if it's straight by looking at the door. And it's the door of the Leaning Town of Pisa. It should be straight. Right, and then I'm going to move it across, and I'm going to use fence and stick it there. Does that overlap a bit? It's a little bit fiddly. And now we do have excess fence because we don't need to go all the way across. But I'm not going to cut the excess off yet, because once we've put foam on, we want to make sure that we still go to the edge of the page. I'm going to stuck that fence piece up a little bit high. I think I have. I can lift it a little bit high. It's got to be your first row of dots. A little bit of the green underneath. Just a little bit of green underneath. Move your wreath to where it needs to be. There you go. So that's what it's going to look like. I'm just going to add some foam. This part can get annoying, but again, personally, I feel it's worth it. Really makes the fence come alive. And you don't have to put on every single post. Not so bad using your foam tape. About the edge because we're going to end up cutting some off. Right. So we still got our bottom row of dots. You can see where we can cut the fence off now. The fence can come off. Oops. I'm cutting off the end post. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and the end post right on the edge. Work fine. And I'm going to take just the top section of this off, just so we can put it in place and still fiddle with underneath. So remembering, we're going to make sure it's just beige showing in the middle. Nice and straight door. No dots showing, just the beige in the middle. And we can stick it down, but we can still flap it open so we can still work with it. And then this, feed in. And I'm going to put another layer of foam on these two. I'm going to put a third layer of foam on the last one, just for fun. And that's what I will do. The last post has got 3 layers. second post. 2 layers. Okay, to stick this down, which is a bit tedious taking all the tape off, but it's definitely worth the effect. So again, the important part is it lines up with this fence, which means we need to just need 1 row of dots at the bottom of the green there. It's going to be a little bit tricky because of the wreath to get it all lined up. So we're going to just take our time, line up with the edge, and make it as straight as possible. And beautiful cut. It's going to try to stick. When you're not ready for it to stick, just take your time getting it where it needs to be. Tie up. Okay, and we're just going to stick that side down. Where the rest of the wreath isn't stuck, so I'm going to need to lift. Stick the rest of the wreath down as we stick the fence down. It's a little bit fidgety. Really, really pretty when it picks out. You have tweezers that come in quite handy here now. I have to have one somewhere, but I don't want to waste your time looking for them. Right. Some kind out of line. Page. Awesome. Then you still have your 2 other pages left. So 3E is actually your photo mat. It's going to go there. And 3F is just a backing photo mat, so you can put your little piece of acetate on there like that. But they're just more photos than anything else. I did put a piece of foam underneath here to just lift it up from this one. So let me show you what I did there. So let's first take the terracotta one out. And I'm going to put a layer of foam along the top. And a layer of tape along the bottom. So the foam is at the top, and tape is at the bottom. Down a little bit hard. Okay, there we go. So this one, the purpose of it is so we can put a little piece of acetate with a little quote on it. So we need a nice big piece of it exposed on that side. And you can go down. And this one is your photo mat, so you want as much of it as showing as possible without covering all your hard work. It's going to be like that. Again, I'm going to put tape at the bottom and foam at the top. Up, which is nice and straight. I did go underneath the flowers on the left hand side ever so slightly. Still leave that big gap there for acetate. And there you go. So that's the basic of your single layout done. It's nice just to play with designs. The extra little elements and things are from the fussy cuts. Yeah, I'll quickly get that done so you can just finish it off nicely. That is critical to the layout, otherwise you get funny little cuts in the middle of your flowers, which looks a bit odd. So for that you'll need a flower cluster from your fussy cuts, and well, yeah, one flower cluster, and then I really love the kitty cat. So, and obviously my layouts of the cat. So whatever animal you want, and it's full, but can't be, I suppose you could do half an animal. So if you wanted to, you could put a little doggy there. I really, really like cats. So I'm going to try to find my kitty cat. Little one. Okay, well, there's the kitty cat for there. So many things to play with. It becomes tricky to find everything. There we go. All right, so over the cut, you can stick the kitty cat next to your dog. And then I just layer of flowers. So layer of foam underneath kitty cat. Remember, the whole point of this now is to cover up this cut line. So I'm going to put over that cut line. Make sure the cat's lower than the dog, otherwise it's going to look a little bit funny. I know Maine Coons can get big, but it just will be a bit weird having a bigger cat than a dog. Make sure. Let's see, I'm going to double foam this. So I'm going to put some foam underneath the kitty. And then where they overlap, foam. And then the florals just to cover up like that. And then you don't see the cut. Obviously, these little elements just finish off the layers. Show you the completed one. And then I took this from one of the barcode strips. My goal in life is to be as good of a person as my fur baby or fur child already thinks I am. Like, how prude is that? Dogs especially think the world of their owners. And sometimes we didn't behave the best that particular day, and they still love it anyway. That was a really cute saying. So that was from a barcode strip. These are from fussy cut elements. This dog is also from a fussy cut element. So let me see if I can find one quickly. And the purpose of him was just to cover up that gap. So you've got your acetate strip, and then you had all this here. So obviously once you put your acetate in, see what size gap you've got and what animal you want to put in, but it was just to finish it off. So that's layout 3. I'm going to take a little bit of a break so I can get the inks and things out and show you what I did with all those bits and pieces. And then I'll be back to continue with the detail. See you just now. Hi everyone, back to do our chipboard. This is the only chipboard we need to color. So you were given 2 in the pack. So the one's titles and the other one's just elements. So we're going to work on the title one first. So if you can get MB's 4730 out of your bulk pack. So a couple things. Just because the chipboard was designed in a certain way doesn't mean it has to be used in that way. So you can see Pet Sleep paw prints on our hearts. I chopped them up. Pet Sleep paw prints on our hearts. It didn't work as a big chunky one, but it worked as a nice long skinny one with these beautiful acetate quotes. So just made it look like it was part of the acetate quotes. So we're going to start up with that one. So we're going to just cut it off from the chipboard. I didn't even use the little paw prints that are attached to it, so I cut those off as well. Nice sharp craft knife. Didn't even use the hearts. Cut against where the letter would end. I'm cutting first, so we won't see the cut lines after we've colored. Otherwise, it's still going to be that beige color. I want it to be all black. Maybe we still not. Okay. Okay, so we can put the rest of the chipboard aside for now. That's the chipboard we're working with, but we're dividing it now, so we're going to leave it, cut it apart at pet sleeve, keep them together, but cut it away from the rest. Keeping the letters intact as much as possible. Pet sleeve. Then it's just paw prints by themselves. No, paw prints on our, we keep together. So we're just cutting off hearts. So when we assemble, pets leave paw prints on our hearts. This is an easy one to color. Sense. Don't have a craft mess, or you're lazy like me and you just don't want to go look for one. These plastic packets work a charm. So we're just gonna, I just simply used all-purpose ink, real black. Any black will do. Again, as I said, I wanted to make it look like the acetate. So just grab the acetate out of the pack so you can see what I mean. So the acetate is just plain black. And I was working with these cute little lines of print. This on top so you can see what we're talking about. Okay, so we're working on this here. All-purpose ink. Use a fantastic tool, whatever you like. I'm just using a little paintbrush, giving it a good solid coat. There's no technique here. I just wanted to show you how you can manipulate your titles to change the format of them to work with how your layout has come together. You don't have to use them all joined up as Dennis has created them. They normally work perfectly fine that way. But on this particular layout, I couldn't put a fairly square title in. It had to be print like the acetate was. Oh, sorry, as mentioned, still here. Paw prints, the dot of the prints, the PRI, is an E, so you just need to cut that loose as well. Just careful you don't lose it. Doesn't want to come loose. At least ink on. I will have to find my tweezers. Yeah, that's not so bad. Careful you don't lose that little dot. Easy, straightforward painting. Yeah. And this is just chipboard. So if you're rough, it could snap apart. If you do that, obviously it's not the end of the world again. When you stick it on your layout, you can just fix it up. But preferably be a little bit gentle. And if you soak your chipboard, it will disintegrate. So although I'm giving a good layer, I'm not going to leave it lying in ink or liquid of any sort. All-purpose ink gets sucked in so nicely. Covers really, really well. You see, if you've got a black ink pad and you prefer to just use your little ink pad, that's also fun. Or you just enjoy the fullness of that all-purpose ink, the liquid of it, because it really gets soaked in and you know it's black. It's noted. What's about that? Okay. I'm going to the dot of the eye. I would recommend leaving it for a few minutes to dry before sticking on your layouts because you're going to get little black smudges. I'm just going to leave this in the corner. Let's leave paw prints on our hearts and the dot of the eye is there as well. So that is a very simple, easy title, but just manipulated to fit in the way our layout has been done. Nice and easy. Okay, so the next title is Love is a Four-Legged Word. You know, we'll leave it in the frame. Let's see what we've done here. So this is a little bit of coloring now. Here it is. Right, I'm going to leave it in the frame just so I don't have to touch it. I can touch around it when I'm coloring. Let me just grab my white. So I don't really need my white. Okay, I'm not going to do ombre or anything. It's just coloring like old school coloring. Lots of fun. So I'm going to start with paler colors first, which is Sahara Sands. Push it on. Spritz of water. And these are going to go onto the paw prints and the middle line. Paw prints. Oh, much ink there. Battling to ink, just once you squeeze, you can always go around like this and just clean up extra. My pads are getting a bit old now. I love my VersaMagics. Squish. And one spoon. Keep that thing to move ink around, just stick your brush in and spritz of water. Move on to the lighter green, which I use aloe vera. One of my favorite colors. Let me just give a bit one out. Let's try it out. There we go. That's my newer one. That's aloe vera. No, clean this paint off. I'm quite, oh goodness. I don't know if you can hear that with the ice cream van going past. Always the small towns, these little ice cream vans. Very cute. Okay, so aloe vera is going to go on is a four-legged. Aloe vera. And I did a mistake here and I went over the line. So I'm just going to put a little bit of extra green on that A just to try and cover up where I went a bit messy. And then once that coat's dry, I'll go over it again just to make sure it's been covered up. That's the joys of Versa Magics. You can layer the colors, try to cover up mistakes. So love this. And go back to the again. And then we're going to move on to the darker green. So this is Hint of Pesto, a little bit of a dirty green. Okay, I'm just going to clean around the edges from where I squeezed, wasted. So it says Muddy Paw Prints, freshly cut grass paw prints. This part's therapy. It's your own little space. Color is not covering properly. Probably got too much paint, too much water on your paintbrush. So just go back and get some more of the color. Over. Right, and then I also used a couple of the heart paw prints. So those two bigger hearts with paw prints in them. Same time. There you go. Love is a four-letter word. Legged. Sure. Love is a four-legged word. And your two little hearts. So as you're on the layouts. Go, and then the heart portraits. So that was a chipboard. Nice and simple. I did do something a little bit odd with the brick chipboard, which I will show you next. So just to recap on the colors I used for the titles. For pets leave paw prints on our hearts. Let's see if I can get a white piece of paper so you can see it nicely. Just give me a second. So that was just all-purpose ink black. Again, don't forget the dot of the eye. So that was just purely all-purpose ink black. And then this one, start with the green, the dark green, hint of pesto. Not coming into focus here. Okay, well, it's hint of pesto, light green is aloe vera, and then the brown tan color is Sahara sand. If you want to match those colors, those are the colors I used for my chipboard titles. Then the next part is something a little bit different. Just because it's boring being the same thing the whole time. So with bricks in real life, the mortar or the stuff between the bricks is in and the bricks stick out. So that's what I was trying to achieve here, rather than the mortar sticking out, which the chipboard would be. I tried to do it the other way around. It didn't really work, but I quite like the effect anyway. So for this, you'll need texture paste, white texture paste, and then a couple of all-purpose ink colors. I'll grab them for you so you can see which ones are used. So it doesn't matter what texture paste, as long as it's white. And then I used a little bit of chocolates. Colors now. It's chocolate and autumn leaf. Chocolate and autumn leaf. You can also use some truffle. I have more truffle here somewhere. Truffle. There is other colors. This is where you just play with your colors to get the color that you're wanting. Oh, there's this clay color. Set in a clay. Do got all of that. So whatever colors you got, just grabbing some browns and orangey browns. So those out. Then you'll need your texture paste. Sure, that's ready. Two. Texture paste. And spatula. Okay. Now to prevent having to do numerous batches and try and match the colors, which was my initial problem, we're going to do quite a bit of texture paste coloring so we don't have to do a second lot. Okay, so you're going to take quite a bit of texture paste, so probably about 2 teaspoons, 2.5 teaspoons. Let me take a little bit more. I've got limited paintbrushes here, so I'm just going to quickly clean my paintbrushes off on the chipboards. See. There, and all right, so got these colors, and we're trying to make a color that's going to work nicely with the paper range. So I'm going to take this Sedona clay, I think that's how you say it. This bottle's almost empty. And I'm just going to put a few drops on it. And I'm going to mix as I go. Don't have to mix perfectly, just get a rough idea. Obviously, it's going to go quite a lot paler. This is way too pink for the collection, but that's why I've got some browns to add and a bit of orange. This is where you're supposed to play and just have fun. But this color, as it is not going to work. It's definitely not the right color, so I'm going to add some truffle. Oh, goodness. Still not going to work. Just see why we're doing one big batch, because you get the right ratio next time around. It's going to be quite tricky. See, I'm going to use some autumn leaf. This is a lighter ink, so I'm going to need to use quite a bit of it to have some sort of effect. Not nearly as intense as the dark colors. Oh, we could be getting somewhere. I think we'll need more of that color. If you're doing small batches, it's much easier to play with because obviously you have to add less ink. But when you're needing to do quite a bit of space, it does get tricky. So I'm going to just do a couple drops. That's more the color I'm looking for in the middle there. So now it goes back to that pinkish color, which is not what I'm needing. But we'll get there, little bit by little bit, we'll get there. So we definitely don't want to use any more of that clay that had the pinky part in it. So let's go back to this autumn leaf. Oh, probably too much now. Oh well. Just don't mix it all in. The more liquid you add to your texture paste, the longer it's going to take to dry on your actual layout. So do this at the end of your project. So you can just leave it overnight to set nicely and dry. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that color. A little bit unusual, maybe add more of that brown in right side there. It's not scientific, it's just what color you like, what grabs your eye, what goes with the paper. Yeah, so I'm going to stick with that color. I'm quite happy with that. And I'm going to do the weird part. So we're actually going to work directly on the base. Layouts. Of course, I can't find them now. Just work with them until I find them. There we go. Okay, so these are size we're working with. And we are using the strip work, the brickwork. So you need to select the pieces of brickwork that you'd like to work with. So I used a nice long piece on the left-hand side. That loose. There's actually two pieces, but I left it as one. Just in the middle, there's a little joining piece, but you don't really notice that. I quite liked it as one long piece. Using that one. I'll probably use this one here. Let's use this top one. Yeah, you can just play. This is all just for fun. It's that one. And then I could use that one. So you do have a few little bit pieces left. You want to add or whatever. So on layout first side, on the left hand side, I'm losing my mind now. Okay, we are going to put the texture paste directly onto the base of our layouts. So what you can do just to be safe, which I didn't do in my initial project, is actually just get a scrap piece of paper and put it up like this, so you don't put texture paste over your actual project that you don't want texture paste on. So we're going to put texture paste along here. That open space towards the flowers. It's nice and thick in certain places and not too thick in others. Oh, this is very arty. What did I say? Don't think, just do. That's where we're at right now. So filling in that space, if it overlaps some of the artwork, not a problem. It's a bit mixed media. So you got to just let it go a little bit. You're not going to control it completely. So once you've done that, you're going to choose your selected piece of chipboard. And you're going to put it in the wet paste. And you're going to push down gently in certain spots. Texture paste tries to pop through. Right. And then you can remove your piece of paper. So something a little bit different. Something fun. show you again on the next section. So we used here as well. There's up. Paste. Fortunately with this, feels like you don't have enough hands because things want to move around and whatnot, but it's fun. You just enjoy it. Yeah, you got a nice big white patch to work with. So you can really spread it out. Not too thin, oopsie, because you don't want to not have any texture paste to ooze through the bricks or brick pattern. You have messed on the paper. See if I can wipe it in something. And move the paper. Put down. So try to clean that off before it dries. Wouldn't recommend doing what I've just done, but accidents happen, so you've got to try. Just stick an embellishment over there. Right, and again, you just need to push down. Even if it's just with a toothpick, just something that's narrow enough just to touch the chipboard, not to touch the texture paste. Yeah. Again. And then on the right hand side, just to balance the pages off, yeah, we're going to be putting our title. So this big white patch is going to be, it's been allocated already. We don't need to put anything there, but we do have a white patch up here. So you can put some brick on. I'm going to turn my paper around, try avoid drama. Just going to put a fold in there so I can get my 90 degrees. And do it that way. See, I'm learning as I'm going. So I should have thought of that before. Filling in this white space. I don't want to go over the graphics too much, if at all. Okay. Lift it up. And we've got this cute little brick. I'm actually going to tuck under a little bit there. There we go. And again, only touching the chipboard. Push it down in a few spots. Awesome. So obviously now this you're going to have to leave to dry. This takes, leave it overnight to dry before you even start fussing. Even if you start putting your chipboard title on, you're probably going to bump it or smear it or something over it. So I would recommend just now, once you've done the texture paste, leave it at least for 24 hours, just to make sure that it's all set and you're not going to mess it up. So that's as far as we can go. Our chipboard's waiting. I'll show you what to do with the acetate next, but that's all we can do today on this particular project. Obviously, you got your fussy cut elements. You can look through and see what you want to stick where, but that is your texture paste and your chipboard done. So as we talk, I go and drop it. Move on. So it's somewhere safe now. All right, I'm just going to for your acetate. I just find it a lot easier and quicker. Once you've got your acetate, you can see it nicely now. If you're going to be sticking it flat, which I often do, like over photos or whatever, I go, before I even do anything, turn it over. And just put double-sided tape. Every time I've used acetate in these layouts, it's been stuck flat. So I can actually do the whole card. And then all I do is cut the elements out once. Element that I want out. Pre-stuck. Just peel it off. And away you go. So there you go. So now when I want to go and stick these little things down, all I've got to do is peel off the back and stick it down. So up here as well. There. And then when I get to putting on photos and stuff, it's all pre-done. So there. There. The little paw prints. So it just makes life a bit quicker. Right, and even on the single. There we go, it's all done. Pre-done. Okay, and another little trick which I used inside my little kennel is on the barcode strips. We often get these beautiful little tabs, which I really, really love. But they can be quite a pain to put in place sometimes. So what I do again, before I even fussy cut, I put the tape down on top of it. The tape is a bit wide, so I'm just going to trim it down. And then once you've got that, you simply fussy cut them out. Just want to do two so you can see if I'm going with this. So you're cutting through the tape, back, there. Now back to layout 2. Maybe it's a little book or something. All these cute little pages. Do little tabs. So all we do now screen again. And now my tweezers are all full of texture paste. I'm going to peel the protective layer off. Right. Being careful now not to touch that page, so you're just sticking down top. Actually, even lift the page up like that. Turn it over, and the opposite piece. Just line it up with it. And there you go. It's stuck. No problem. No, just look at that. Nice and easy. Quick, quick, quick. So that's a nice little hack to have. I think I've covered everything for the layouts, apart from obviously doing the final touches. So I'm going to just show you the layouts again, so you can have a look and really take in the detail. But please make it your own. So layout 1 is the one that is drawing. So please be very careful. This is the one we've gotten up to at the moment. Layout 1. Show you the completed version of layout 1. Layout 1 is of my gorgeous, gorgeous bubbikins. Sweet water. So layout 1. Okay, so that was where I was talking about the acetate. We've got this nice This is drying. This is where I cut up the title so it fits nicely. It's fine in the space we had left. Little dot there. I've just used a couple of the little tabs over the photos. There's another little acetate there. Nice little tab. This has been raised. You'll see on your fussy cut sheet, you've got a couple of little elements that are all joined, and then some single elements that are raised again. So these have been raised twice. This has been raised once. Obviously just little touches here and there. This page for me was celebrating cats. So you'll see I used as many of the cat elements as I could without going over the top. So you'll see the cat there, the cat there, the cats on all the little extra bits. But that's pretty straightforward. I've given you all the tricky bits already. Then we go on to layout 2, which we have done most of the work, apart from in the little kennel, because actually you need to see what photos you want. So layout 2, that's where we've got to so far with all the pages inside. Okay. Just remember our kennel will open separately. So once the title is dry, you'll put your title on. You've done all that already. So you'll just need to get a little dog and a flower cluster to put in that gap. Showed you the acetate. We've already colored that chipboard. Here I did a little bit of layering just to join the fences up together. So you'll see there's a fence here. Just to make this whole line of fence. And once you put this fussy cut element on, you'll see there is a gap. So again, was just the flowers and a couple of little doggies to fill the gap. Here was just to finish off the kennel. Circle, title, this has been raised just to give it a little something. Then in the pages, you'll need to see what photos you have. So for the landscape or portrait, you'll need to just adjust your mattings. These were just scraps. So this piece was actually the leftover piece from layout 3, the single. So we cut that little extra piece off. So it's been used there. Nothing goes to waste. This is beautiful from the fussy cut sheets. Again, just extras. The little tabs I use to cover up these corners because it's a bit hard to fill those in nicely. So you'll see on both pages, the little tabs have been used. This page is about dogs, so I used mainly the dog tabs. Again, it's just little extra fussy cut pieces, the title with the doggy at the top. And just to cover the holes, because we didn't have any ribbon, I put little circle dots. And this little tab is just a quote, which I thought was beautiful. Slides in there. And you've done all the hard work, so now it's just putting your own little spin on all the little bits and pieces. Finally, the third layout, nice basic fun one. So we're just going to put a little saying down here, or you can even put up at the top. I used more fussy cut elements, so we just put that on. These little pieces, you're welcome to use other little pieces just to fill in the space, or leave it as is. It's quite beautiful, simple like that. But this is now where you get time to play. I did obviously put the acetate pieces in there, but you could always stick a little picture in there or do a little bit of journaling. This is where you need to make it your own. But it's been loads of fun. I'm not sure who's going to be doing the class next month. Might be Dennis, might be Juliet. Rumor has it she's feeling much better. So I really, so relieved, Juliet, so relieved. So we'll see who does the next class. But thank you so much for joining this one. And we look forward to seeing you again next month. And thank you once again for all your support. And it's amazing to know how many people have our backs and support us and give us a lifestyle we have. Our kids are flourishing. I just, as I said, got back from Oz. Like I would never in a million years thought that I'd be going to Oz every year. So it's just, yeah, thank you all. Like the deepest part of my heart. I don't often get to talk to you because obviously we don't do the events now, but please feel my appreciation, Dennis and mine both. We really love getting your feedback. We had a huge response to the wholesalers competition with photos of all the kitties and the doggies, the fur babies. And it was just awesome to see how we have a community behind us. It's actually quite moving. So please don't feel like we've ever neglected you. We know your value beyond words, but there's only so much we can do as it's just Dennis and I. So once again, thank you, and we will see you next month.